So, the transfer window closed a few weeks ago. The players have had a chance to make their debuts and give us a little bit of an opportunity to see what they are capable of. In this video, I'm going to be going through my thoughts and feelings around the signings and what I think about each individual player. We're going to start off talking about the loan players, go through those who we signed on a free, as well as then those who we paid transfer fees for. I think a lot of players have shown masses of quality over the course of the last few weeks, and I certainly think we're performing to a standard much higher than many expected. But I think it's time now to give a little bit of review over these players. Later down the line, we'll be taking a look ahead to January and what potential players we need to let go of, what players we need to bring in, and see what could happen with that one. But shall we get right into it? So, over the course of this transfer window just gone, Derby County signed 11 players and paid in the region of £2.7 million for just 3 players, being Kenzo, Goudmijn, Adams and Zetterstrom. We made 5 loan signings, and I think we did really well in the transfer market. Obviously, if you talk about the fees we spent, it mainly came from obviously salon fees, but I think it was a really good transfer market for Paul Warne and this Derby County squad. Obviously, we didn't get off to the best of starts at Blackburn, but we've turned it around, especially at home. We've been unbelievable. Away from home, it's not quite been good enough yet, but that's something which I'm sure Paul Warne and the coaching staff will be working to improve. Now, shall we take a look into the first signing? So, signing number 1 is loan signing Jerry Yates. I think, obviously, the 3-game suspension to start off the season was not great. I think we probably would have looked a better outfit in those first 3 games if he'd have played in them. I think he's been unbelievable, in my opinion. I think he works really hard on and off the ball. I think he's really good at linking up the play. I know a lot of people have been talking shit on his hold-up play, but I personally think it's really good. I think he's got a really good awareness of movement and where his teammates are going to be, and I think he does a really, really good job. And obviously, let me know your thoughts on each of the signings down in the comments, but I think Jerry Yates has been absolutely amazing since coming into the side. He's just missing a goal, but I'm sure that will come. Hopefully, the first game after the international break. He's been so close a couple of times, but he's just not quite got it yet. Next up then is David Ozo. Now, he didn't start off great against Blackburn Rovers, and I think everybody can agree with that, but he certainly turned it around over the course of the few weeks after that. He was an unbelievable performer for Derby County this season, especially at home, and then obviously picking up that injury. Was it against Cardiff? Which I think really shook up Derby County's midfield. I think David Ozo is by far and away one of the best players in that midfield, and I certainly think once he's back fit and available, I certainly think he'll end up coming straight back in. But I do think it's going to be a conversation of who he comes in for, because I think Kenzo Goudmijn's been amazing. I think Adams has had some really good performances as well, but I think when you look at that midfield, they're probably the 2 positions he's going to take. And I think you obviously look at that third midfield role, which Marcus Harness occupied in the recent game. I think Harness was unbelievable in that game. I think it's going to be difficult to take him out after such a good performance. And obviously, when you look at Kenzo, he's been really, really good over recent weeks. So talking about David Ozo and his loan signing, I think it's been a really good one for Derby County. I think he's done a really good job at settling into the squad. The injury came at probably the worst time, really. He's missed I think it's about 6 games when we get to the end of his injury, which I believe he should be back for Millwall, if not the one after. So it's going to be difficult for Ozo to get back into the side, because we've performed well, but away from home we certainly need to pick up some form, and I think David Ozo has the ability to help us do that. Obviously, he was involved in the team beforehand, and we couldn't win away then, but I think he's got quality. I think he'll certainly come straight back into the squad. Next up then, a player we've just spoke about in Marcus Harness. I think this was a late signing in the transfer window on deadline day. He's not really had a massive opportunity yet, but I do think he's been a really, really good player when he's had that opportunity. I think at Sunderland he was a little bit iffy, but I think when he's come on, he's done well in defensive aspects. I think he's done well on the ball, and I think the performance versus QPR at the weekend was a really, really good one, topped off with a goal as well, which was a really, really nice finish, some link-up play between the former Ipswich Town players. And I really like Marcus Harness, and if you go back a few videos ago when I was talking about who should replace David Ozo, I said it should have been Harness to come and play in that number 10 role, drop Kenzo a little bit deeper, and I think we saw why I said that at the weekend. I think he was excellent in that number 10 role, helping with Jerry Yates in the press, helping connect the midfield to the front three. I think that's just something that Marcus Harness is excellent at, and I think he will prove to be a really, really good signing come the end of this window. I think, well, the end of this season, sorry. I think he's a really good player, and I think he's shown that so far in the games that he has played. Now, obviously, you look at the players that these players have been replacing, like David Ozo and Marcus Harness have replaced your likes of Corey Smith and Conor Horahan. So they're big signings to replace players who were massively influential last year, and I certainly think that Marcus Harness, David Ozo have certainly put in good performances to show that they were the right signings. Next up then is Nat Phillips. Now, I don't necessarily believe we've seen the best of Nat Phillips yet. I don't necessarily believe he's had as much of an opportunity as he probably would have wanted. I think he's a really good player. I think we've seen that in moments across the course of his appearances. He's obviously not played much. I think did he play the full 90 versus Sunderland? I'm pretty sure he did. And I do think it will be a situation where at the moment Cashin and Nelson are being unbelievably good, so you can't really take them out, and it does leave Nat Phillips in a bit of a situation where he's like, what am I supposed to do here? Because it could be a situation where he ends up going back in January, but then you never know when injuries may occur. Obviously Cashin's done really well so far, but obviously picked up that head injury early on, which left us with Sonny Bradley in the team, and obviously we never know when that could happen again. But I think Nat Phillips has shown a lot of quality when he's played. Do I think he's shown enough to get into the starting 11? Maybe not yet. Maybe for away games I think it could be a really good idea, but as of right now I don't think there's enough problem in the back line for Nat Phillips to come in, but obviously that's something which Paul Warne will be looking at across the course of the next few weeks. Tawanda Chiwo, he's had a bit of a stop and start time at Derby County so far. Obviously came in, played versus Barrow, which was a disappointing game, picked up a little knock a little bit after that, and then obviously went on international duty, picked up another injury where he picked up a concussion and mixed 12 days. Then he comes back, starts versus Sunderland. I thought he did okay versus Sunderland. I thought he was a little bit wasteful in possession, but I thought he did really well, and then obviously ends up picking up another injury which could see him out for 4 to 8 weeks according to Paul Warne. So it is a bit disappointing for Tawanda Chiwo so far. I think he's shown glimpses of being a really, really good player, but not really been able to put together a run of games, which it's one of those for me. I think he'll eventually find his way into the team, but I think it will be through the case of suspensions and injuries. I think the likes of Kenzo, Marcus Harness and David Ozo will probably be our midfield three going forward once Ozo's obviously back fit. But it's a big conversation about Tawanda Chiwo. Where's he going to come in and play? Obviously, there is going to be big roles off the bench for a lot of players this season because it's a massive squad game in the Championship. And as we get to that Christmas period, you want as many players fit as possible. And that's where I think Tawanda Chiwo will come into his own. I think it's going to be a brilliant opportunity for him this season. But he needs to get himself fit and available. Otherwise, he might end up going back to Wolves. Next up then is Ben Osborne, the first free signing of the season. I thought this was a really, really good one in my opinion, and started the season off, I thought he was the best player on the pitch for us versus Blackburn. I thought he worked really hard, was really good on the ball, but since then he's just gone a little bit off the boil. He's picked up a few niggly injuries, and it's been a bit of a problem in my opinion, because realistically you want him in that midfield or you want him in that left back slot, and he's just not really been fit enough to do that, which has obviously led to Derby County using other players, which now means he's sort of fell down the pecking order at Derby County. Now, obviously he's on a little bit of a different training schedule to everybody else, as Paul Warne has mentioned in his press conferences, but it's one of those for me where this could go one of two ways with Ben Osborne, and I think that's something which really needs to be looked at by Paul Warne and the coaching staff. Obviously, did he sign a 2-year contract if I remember rightly? And it's one of those where I think maybe, I don't know. It's difficult because if you can get him fit, he's obviously a good player at this level, but getting him fit seems to be that difficult nature. And that's something which Paul Warne and the coaching staff are going to have to look at coming into the Christmas period, coming into January, because Are we going to need to pick up another midfielder? Obviously, yes, the squad is full right now, but I can see players moving on in the January window. In my opinion, I think that will happen, and I think players will come in. But Ben Osborne, I think he's an okay signing, not yet shown his true form, in my opinion. But when will that come? Next up then is Caden Jackson. I think he's been really impressive over the course of the start of the season. Obviously won Player of the Month for me over the course of the first month of the season. And he's one of those players who I think he stepped up at certain occasions, but he's also been a bit lacklustre in others. I think he was really disappointing versus QPR. Yes, he picked up an assist, but up until that point, didn't really do a great deal, and it felt as if he was scared to go at his man. I'm not sure if it was an instruction from Paul Warne to play those passes backwards and things like that, but it was a bit of a disappointing performance from him for me at QPR. And I think also in a couple of the games before that as well, I know he's probably the #1 option on that right hand side at the moment, and do I think it's the right decision? Maybe over the course of 46 games it will be, but I think he's been a bit poor in recent weeks. I think certainly when you see the likes of Corey Blackett-Taylor coming off the bench and performing well and things like that, I think there is always an opportunity for things to be shaken up. Obviously Kane Wilson as well can fit into that role, so that's something which we'll have to look into. But I think Caden Jackson on the whole has been a really good sign, and I think he's going to have a massive impact over the course of the season. Next up then is Rohan Luthra, and I think he obviously is not played I don't think he's played at all actually since pre-season, and that's not a slight on him. I think he's doing a really good job as that third goalkeeper for the first team, which is obviously the reason why I was brought in, so the likes of Jack Thompson and Harry Evans can go and get minutes. Now I know Harry Evans, I think he's still injured. He might actually be on his way back from injury now, but Jack Thompson's been playing minutes. He went out on loan as well for a brief spell. But it's one of those for me where I think Luthra has come in and done the job he's expected to do. Be that third goalkeeper, support the first team. He'll be getting amazing amounts of experience with the likes of Andy Warrington, Jakob Zetterstrom, and obviously with Josh Vickers as well. So that's something which Luthra will take on for his future career. Obviously, who knows what could happen. Vickers and Zetterstrom could get poorly, one of them could get sent off while the other one's injured, and he's then our first choice keeper, and that then gives him the opportunity. Now, obviously, we don't want that to happen, not as a slight on Luthra, but more to do with the fact of obviously you want your best keepers in goal, and Zetterstrom has obviously shown he is that so far. But I think he's done his job. He's been a really good signing so far. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. First of the paid signings then is Ebou Adams, and we knew what he was going to bring to the table. We had him on loan last season, and he was an excellent signing on loan in January, and I think he's done the same thing this season. Now, I do have my reservations about Ebou Adams. Yes, he's a brilliant player in a defensive standpoint. I think on the ball, he's missing a bit, but that isn't going to turn up now at the age that he is. He's one of those players who's going to do the dirty work for you. He's not necessarily going to be the tidiest on the ball. We saw that versus Cardiff when he missed that sitter in the last minute. And it's one of those for me where he was the only player who was ever going to be getting that opportunity versus Cardiff, 97 minutes into the game, running the length of the pitch after a corner had bounced out. So it's one of those for me where Ebou is certainly a really good player, and he offers exactly what Paul Warne needs in a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1 system. He's a player who's going to rat about, win the ball, he's going to tackle you, he's going to essentially just try and run you off the pitch. And I think he does a very good job of doing it. I think he's an unbelievable player in that defensive standpoint. When it comes to build-up play, I sometimes think he's a little bit in the way, and I think we need a little bit more from him. But that's just something which will come with time. And I do think eventually we'll find a way where I don't think Ebou Adams is going to be a starter come the end of the season, given injuries and things like that. I think at some point he'll drop out, and I think we'll go from strength to strength. Not to say that Ebou Adams can't be involved in that, but more to do with the fact that having a bit more technical ability at this level is really important. And if you can have technical ability, work rate and defensive acumen, you're pretty much set in that defensive midfield position. And we've seen that with David Ozo. Obviously Ozo's still learning his trade at this level, and obviously it's his first senior loan move. And I think the partnership Adams and Ozo created early doors was really good, and losing Ozo when we did was very disappointing. But when he comes back, Will we go back to that midfield three of Ozo, Adams and Kenzo? Or is there going to be a little bit of a shift around and we may be losing Adams or a Kenzo out of the starting 11, which I think would be really harsh on both players so far. I think Ozo's certainly got to earn his way back in. But considering the fact we're losing away from home at the moment, there's every opportunity it could change. Kenzo, Goudmijn then, or Goudmijn, whatever you want to say. I just call him Kenzo. I think he's been an unbelievable signing for Derby County. I think he's put in some really, really good performances. I think Paul Warne will be absolutely delighted with some of the performances he's put in this season. And I think there's a reason why we signed him. And for the price we got, absolute steal. I think it was £600,000 was the reported fee from AZ Alkmaar for Kenzo on a 4-year contract. And if he keeps performing the way he's performing, he won't be playing in the Championship for very long, let's put it that way. He's really good on the ball. He gets himself into some really, really good positions off the ball to create chances or get himself into scoring opportunities. I think he's scored twice this season. He's not quite got the assist tally that I think he deserves with some of the play that he's been involved in, but that will come with time. But I think he's, in my opinion, an upgrade on Max Bird, and obviously I think the two players who were sort of playing this position under Paul Warne was Max Bird last season, Jason Knight the season before, and I think Kenzo is an upgrade on both of them. I think when we played Bristol City, I think Kenzo ran the show. I thought it was a really, really good performance from Kenzo, and I can't really remember many bad performances from him. Obviously, the Blackburn game was a little bit sloppy, but I think that was a team sloppy performance. I think, obviously, you've got other games where he's not necessarily been the driving force, but I also think that's down to the way we're playing as well. So I think you've got to give Kenzo his credit. I think he's been unbelievable. I think he's only going to go from strength to strength. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, but I think this one is an absolute bargain. And the one we waited so long for, Jakub Zetterstrom, the signing from Djurgården for around £1.5 million, rumoured to go up to I believe 2.2 million. It's a really good deal. Unbelievable goalkeeper. He's kept us in games that we shouldn't have been in. Sheffield United springs to mind. You obviously look at some of the saves he made versus Bristol City, versus Cardiff, and obviously just this weekend gone versus QPR. I think he's been an unbelievable signing for Paul Warne, and I'm so glad that we waited for him to come rather than going picking up a Daniel Iverson or someone else along that calibre, because I just think he's a different level. They obviously call him the Swedish Petr Cech. The fan base love him. I love him. I don't think there's much more you can say. Obviously, the big talking point around Zetterstrom is that distribution, and I don't think his distribution's been great, but I think that'll come with time. I think obviously you look at the goalkeeper that he is, and realistically, he's probably more accurate throwing the ball than he is kicking it, and that's not a problem for me. I just wish he'd used his throw a bit more. I think sometimes we've been on the counter with Mendes Lang or Caden Jackson, and he's not taken that opportunity to throw the ball forward, and it's been a bit disappointing, that element of his game. But on the other side of it, his saves and stuff like that have been absolutely unreal. He commands his back line. He seems to be really good from set pieces as well, at coming out and collecting and demanding stuff from his back line, which is obviously really important. And I think it's an unbelievable signing, Jakub Zetterstrom. Obviously, let me know your thoughts down below, but I think it's an absolute bargain at £1.5 million. So then, here we have the current depth chart for Derby County. Obviously, on the left-hand side, you've got your loan signings and obviously your categories for colours and stuff like that. Obviously, Jack Thompson mainly plays with the 21s or is out on loan. It obviously flips and changes over the course of the season. I think what we're going to see heading into January is I think we're potentially going to get rid of one of those midfield options. I think someone's going to end up moving out. I think obviously you look at the right back position. I think maybe one of them may move on, which opens up 2 slots. And I think in the front line, I think there is an opportunity here for Connor Washington to go out and potentially Tom Barkhuizen. Is that the right decisions? Maybe not, but we'll have to see. It's something we're going to go through in a video probably next week, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled on the channel. But I think there's a lot that needs to be done heading into January, given the numbers that we have. If we want to improve this squad more in January, we have to get rid And I do think there's some players who are probably able to go, in my opinion. Now, I think the squad depth right now is really good. I do think in the forward area we're missing a bit. But it's one of those things that I think January will come, we'll bring someone in, and it'll spark a light for the likes of Jerry Yates and things like that. Obviously, we are quite a ways away from January, so when we go over this next week about who we should get rid of and things like that, I think obviously things could change heading into that January period. But this is the squad depth right now. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Now, we've gone through all the January signings. We've looked at each one of them. We've looked at the squad depth. And I think we've done a really good job in the summer. I think we've made some really, really good signings. And I think we've got doors open to be able to make better signings in that January period. Now, there's obviously going to be a lot to talk about on that, and we're going to do that in its own video. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Hit the like button as well to help push this video to brand new audiences, and I'll catch you in my next video.